And welcome back to the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast, brought to you as always by the GSMC Sports Network. I hope you guys enjoyed what should be the last segment of the hockey season. However, we do have one coming up later in the show to look ahead to the 24-25 NHL season. But for now, we are transitioning from the rinks to the gridiron, where I'll be continuing my player profile series with a guy who has been one of the most exhilarating fantasy players to watch over the years. Perhaps the most dominant as well over the past 4 years, considering where he ranks position-wise in terms of fantasy. So without further ado, let's jump right into our first player profile of the day. And that player is Josh Allen. Josh Allen, like I said, is nothing short of consistent. If we go over the past 4 years of Josh Allen's career and look at the fantasy implications he offers at the position where he finished, it reads QB1, QB1, QB2, QB1. In no season over the past 4 years has Joshua Allen finished outside the top 2. You can talk about the turnovers all you want. You can talk about the risks Josh Allen takes with his body. You can talk about how so many different OCs in Buffalo have walked him out the door. He lost his best OC in Brian Dable. Ken Dorsey's kind of diminishing what he does in this offense, limiting his verticality down the field. But no matter what, Josh Allen, no matter who he has at his disposal, no matter who is talking in his ear telling him the plays, nothing short of one of the best fantasy QBs we've ever seen. Throughout his career, he's accumulated 2,082 fantasy points. His best season was actually in 2021, so kind of the start of that 4-year stretch right there when he had 349.7 fantasy points. He's had 4,000 yards in each of the past 4 seasons, so that's a huge factor as to why he has been in that top 2 range for QBs in the fantasy world. Projections for next year for him, he's going to continue that, they say. 4,385 yards, 34 touchdown passes through the air for a total of 402.58. So they are saying that Josh Allen is not stopping. And if you care to know, he's also one of the best dual threat quarterbacks. As we can see, his aggressive style of running certainly helps many people get more fantasy points from him. 546 yards projected next year for 9 touchdowns rushing for a quarterback. And that's actually over the last 5 years. And so, here's the thing about Josh Allen. This year perhaps might be the toughest year of his career. Gone out the door is Stephon Diggs. Gone out the door is Gabe Davis. We are looking at one of the more thin wide receiver rooms that Josh Allen has ever had. You have an amalgamation of Khalil Shakir, a third-year guy who has shown some signs of brightness in his short NFL career. You have a guy in Curtis Samuel who hasn't really been a prominent wide receiver since he was a Carolina Panther and had a breakout season in 2020. And then you draft a guy in Keon Coleman who I'm really, really high on, but is still a rookie and still is very unproven. So we have to see how he pans out. So there are certainly worries about Josh Allen, especially considering the fact that he is still turnover prone. That's the caveat with him. That's the extra baggage that comes with drafting a guy like Josh Allen. He's going to put up a lot of yards, but just know that there is always a risk that Josh Allen's going to turn the ball over any given week. That's the barrier between people calling him a successful quarterback and a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But that's no matter here. We are looking at Josh Allen in terms of the regular season. We're looking at him in terms of a fantasy season. And right now, Josh Allen is showing no signs of saying that, even without his top two receivers, that he's showing any sign of slowing down. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm very, very high on Keon Coleman. He brings a certain player profile to the Buffalo Bills that can really help Joshua Allen grow and really maintain that level of consistency that we've seen, because of the fact he's not only known as a route runner, but he's known for catching a lot of contested catches, making a lot of contested catches, especially over the middle of the field where a quarterback is more prone to turn the ball over. And so, what with Josh Allen having so many problems keeping the turnover number low, picking up a guy like Keon Coleman could be the difference between a 1 interception game and a 2 interception or even 3 interception game, because of the fact that when you have Keon Coleman over the middle of the field, the route concepts open up a lot more. You are getting a guy who Josh Allen can say, I'm comfortable throwing to in the short to intermediate areas of the field without having any risk of me turning the ball over, because of the fact he has strong hands, good body control, and I know that with my talent and arm strength at the QB position, I can get it to him. And so that's the main question mark. Can Josh Allen develop that rapport with Keon Coleman to ensure that he has a safe option in the middle of the field for when things don't pan out? In terms of how Josh Allen could be seen as not as efficient next year, in terms of him finishing below the QB 1 to 3 range, there are questions about how the Bills' offense is going to look. As we saw, they switched a lot of offensive coordinators last year. They switched from Ken Dorsey, So there has to maintain a level of consistency, not only to Josh Allen, but to the Bills' offense as a whole. I think that they're ultimately going to have to establish who is the number one receiver, who Josh Allen is going to be looking to on deep routes to get the ball vertical, because you lose a guy in Stephon Diggs who's willing to do that. And so you have to establish that. Also last year, we saw the Bills, in order to even get to the playoffs, when they looked like they might be down and out and they had to go on this incredible run of their last couple of games to even get to that position, we saw them use a lot more screen action with guys like James Cook out of the backfield. Now, in terms of how that affects Josh Allen, it ultimately depends on how many yards James Cook gets out of those screen action plays. But it certainly calls to mind an offensive switch. The Bills certainly employed a lot of post routes, a lot of go routes to kind of showcase Josh Allen's arm strength and showcase his talents at getting the ball to deeper areas of the field. Now I kind of feel like they're going to have to get more varied in how they do that, because there is no deep threat, or for that matter, intermediate threat right now that I can say will step up for the Buffalo Bills. It could be Keon Coleman, but I don't know. I haven't seen him at the NFL level to confidently say that he will be a go-to target. So I really think that the job of not only Josh Allen but the Bills OC going into the season is finding varied ways to showcase Josh Allen's talent. And if they do, I think Josh Allen will be A-OK, and he's definitely going to be another contender for a QB1 season. However, if there is any signs of, similar to what Patrick Mahomes went through last year, which I'll talk about in a couple segments from now, if there's any signs of inconsistency with how Josh Allen breaks in these receivers, that's where I get a little worried, because if Josh Allen doesn't have a deep ball threat, there goes his most valuable asset as a fantasy option, mainly due to the fact he gets many big yards by pushing the ball down the field. that's taken away from him, then who knows? He could fall down a little bit. But for now, I'm saying that Josh Allen is the number 1 QB in fantasy at the moment, and I don't think that's going to change. But with that should just about end this edition of my player profile series. There's going to be a couple more segments for today's show, but coming up next, we are switching back to hockey yet again. Now that this season is over, let's look ahead early to next season, shall we? Well, I'll be going over the early Stanley Cup Finals betting odds for next season. You do not want to miss that segment. We'll be right back on the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of